Welcome to the show. I have Ernie G in the house. How's it going,
What's up?
brother?
What's up?
How's it going, man?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Awesome, brother. Good to see you, man.
Likewise.
What is that? I see that you're drinking a nice little beer there. Okay,
It's
okay.
actually Mexican beer, but it's in a Singha cup from Thailand.
Sick.
Yeah, my,
Dude,
my mother-in-law brought it back from Thailand for me.
okay, that's fucking dope, dude. Awesome. Well, dude, let's get into it, man. Thank you for being on the show, man. I wanted to have you on the show because I've known you for a long time. We've both started from the very bottom of the DJ world. We're part of this niche group of people where we almost kind of DJ'd around the same time. We were all DJs. Some of us continued, others stopped, went into the promoting side, and others really, really took it serious and really traveled all over the world. But others, they just gave up. One thing about you is that you continued. You had your own day job that you also focused on, but you continued. You hit the grind. You didn't stop, and it's great to have you on the show, dude. And I really wanted to hear your story, man. Who influenced you to be a DJ from the get go, bro?
Well, to make it short, there was a lot of things happened in 1983 and 84 within the whole hip-hop, b-boy, DJ culture. So it'll probably have to be first what I've heard on the radio on 1580 K-Day,
Nice.
the Mighty 690.
Right.
Then it turned visual later with Wild Style, Beat Street, Breaking, and stuff like that. So it was a combination of those influences and also a couple places I was hanging out in during the whole b-boy movement. That when I physically saw turntables, that kind of got me into it.
Dude, so what was your first experience as just a DJ?
Well, as an unofficial DJ, would have
There you
probably
go.
be on my grandma's home console stereo system where it had 8-track cassette and a turntable. But when that started, I only had one record and 2 8-tracks, and I didn't visually know what DJing really was, so I kind of just got the needle, went across the record while I'm hitting the buttons, playing the 8-track and cassette, and trying to make a sound over the other music.
Right.
So that was the first thing that happened.
So is that the type of equipment that you used? Was it what was it the? Did you have SP1200s from the beginning? You mentioned.
Oh God, I wish.
Okay. So you did. What type? What kind of equipment or turntables?
Grandma's console didn't last too long. I broke the needle, destroyed the record, which was Pac Jam, by the way, very first record, Pac Jam.
Right. Great record.
Later on, my mom got me 2 turntables from JCPenney. They were MCS brand, belt driven, straight arm.
Wow.
And I had a radio, but no mixer. So it was very interesting to try to do any kind of mixing or any kind of DJing without a mixer.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
And what was your first gigs like, dude? Your first event that you played, or?
Well, once I got a makeshift system, if you want to call it that, I got a Radio Shack mixer from Carson, got some Radio Shack turntables. Once I got a kind of a system that I could use out somewhere, my first party was probably on a rooftop of a cabinet shop for a family party.
Oh, shit, okay.
I only had a handful of records, so they probably hated what I played, but that was my first gig. Second gig was in the Wilmington projects in the drug circles for drug dealers. And those were my 2 first gigs ever.
So you DJ'd for drug dealers?
Well, I didn't know that they were until I set up my turntables and my friend brought out his records because my friend who was living in the projects had more music than I did. So I learned very fast that these guys were not there to just party.
Shit, dude. That must have been crazy, bro.
Fuck. It was. I couldn't leave. I was probably there more than 8 hours playing What People Do for Money over and over and over until I had to make a phone call to get my uncle to come down with all his friends with baseball bats to get me out because they wouldn't let me leave. And I was just a kid. We're talking 12, 13, maybe something like that, years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you were playing what, hip hop you at the time,
Well,
or what kind of music were you playing?
well, at that time you had, you already had Rappers Delight and stuff like
Right,
that. You had old school funk and stuff like that. You had electro funk was hitting the scene,
right, right.
the techno hop stuff.
Hmm.
So it was basically that, and
Cool,
so we played a little bit of everything to just to get us by whatever records we had.
awesome. And where did you buy those records? Was it Tower Records here in Torrance, or?
Howard was way later. I
Right,
would
right, right,
say the Mecca was a Rhodium swap meet, and
right. That was the place to go for hip hop.
that was the Mecca,
It
and
was.
seeing DJs there too. I mean, there was previous people that I had seen on turntables mixing and stuff, but there was a whole nother level. That was like a record store on steroids,
It's crazy because people that go to that place now, it's just a fucking swap meet
yeah,
today.
but
But
to us
20
back
years
then,
ago, it was the capital of where you needed to go to get hip hop. It was,
oh yeah, I mean,
yeah, it was amazing.
as a DJ
Right,
or a want to be DJ, you went there for the records, and
right,
then if you had any money left over, maybe you get some school clothes, some Fila's
right,
and some
right,
Levi's or whatever, a fake Gucci sweater, fake Louis
right.
Vuitton sweater, because
True.
that was big back then.
Right,
So that's what you did, and then DJ equipment too, because they did sell stuff.
right, right.
Later on, I bought a mixer there. I chose not to buy school clothes, and I bought a Pyramid 19-inch rack mount, because back then you had the little Radio Shack mixer, which was this
Nice.
original mixer.
That's the
And
standard right there. That's the mixer that everyone used back in the day.
Yeah, and then
That Radio Shack. Did you get that in Radio Shack, or where'd you get that?
right there in Carson, right next to
Okay.
the Radio
Wow.
Shack next to Carson Twin. And back then it was the small mixers that were out. Later
Right.
on, it got into the 19-inch rack mounts. Everybody
Right.
wanted these equalizer
With
samplers.
the sampler, yeah, right.
The 1650 Newmark, and,
Right.
now it's all about battle mixers, but it wasn't always like that. So that was like the first gear and stuff that I was buying out of swap meets.
Nice.
Radio
And
Shack.
who was the first person that you got to see DJ? Was it like a family friend or somebody from where you lived, or?
It was two brothers and another guy named Higgins that I was hanging out in two separate areas of Wilmington, on the west side of Wilmington where I grew up. And
Right.
they would have B-boy sessions in there, graffiti, breakdancing, and DJing.
Right.
So I tried all the other elements except for rapping. I didn't try that element of the culture.
Right.
So I sucked at breaking, I sucked at graffiti, and I just gravitated toward DJing. So it would have to be the guy Higgins, Peter, and a guy named Tommy from a DJ crew called Adonis back in the days.
Okay, cool.
That was my first introduction to just being right there.
So, being that you got to see those couple of guys and you really, really wanted to learn and learn the craft, be honest, how many hours did you practice a day?
Wow. Well, to be honest, I wasn't doing very good at school because all I cared about was getting home and touching my turntables. Right. And I would lock myself in my mom's apartment and just DJ until she got home from work and said, "Hey, you got to turn it off." Right. And she worked long hours, so I was home alone a lot.
Right.
And so it's countless hours, man. It's countless hours of how much time I put into it, because it was either that or hang out on the streets with my friends where they were already getting into, to gangs and stuff. So I actually attribute to DJing to saving my life away from that side of that side of the fence.
Damn, dude, that's fucking pretty inspiring, bro. That was deep. Damn.
Well, so, yeah, it goes deeper than that, but that's in a nutshell.
Right. So, dude, you were DJing for quite a while at that point, and
well, actually, no, because in the 80s, not really, dude. It was just a couple of little backyard things, little
house parties,
family stuff like that, in the projects and stuff like that, and that's all it really was.
And then you took a break. Right, you took a break from it.
I was a veteran DJ until around '89. I had to take a break. Some things were going on in my life, and I had to take a step back. So it was anywhere from 6 months to a year that I took a step back from DJing, and not sure if I was going to go forward with it anymore or what.
Okay, so what happened next? Like from 1990 and
what happened
beyond.
next was the 90s. And the
Right,
90s were, big for a lot of different reasons. Not only for the house, techno, rave, underground scene, but also
right.
hip hop as well. There was two scenes,
True.
happening
Right,
on two sides of the spectrum right there. So 1990, a friend of mine dropped off a crate of records with me and said, "Hey, practice this stuff."
right,
And I had never really heard techno before, and
right,
it
right,
blew my mind. But it wasn't foreign because I was when I kind of stopped DJing for in bedroom DJ. That is, I was playing Taps, Forbidden Lover, freestyle and all that stuff. So the BPMs were high. So
right,
it wasn't a hard transition. I just had to learn, the fundamentals of that kind of music and where to mix it in and out and stuff like that. So
right.
for about 3 months in 1990, I just practiced techno. Well, I started playing in backyard boogies and stuff
Right.
like that, which would back then they considered me like little underground parties in backyards and stuff.
Right.
Before I got to the warehouses and places like that. So that's what was happening like in 1990.
Okay. I do recall there was a lot of house parties that a lot of us would play during those times in the South Bay area.
Yeah.
And it was, everyone was a DJ at the time. Myself, my brother, you, Rob. There were so many people that came out of the South Bay area, Los Angeles area. And I do
talent in the South Bay.
Yeah, exactly. There was so much talent in the South Bay. And what I do remember from you, and I respect it today, is that you never were the type of person that would say, "Hey, man, I'm at this party. Can I get on? Let me play." You would actually wait for hours with your crate of records, and you would sit there and wait and respectfully just wait and ask, "Hey, let me know if there's time for me to get on." Sometimes you would get on, or some people would let you play. Other times you wouldn't even play at all, and you were bummed. And I always respected the fact that you would go everywhere and just wait for you to play. And during that time, who gave you that shot, an opportunity to just play? I know there was a few people, promoters, other DJs, or.
Well, back then, if you weren't on the flyer, you were pretty much like you go to the airport, you're on a standby, right? So
Right.
if the DJ doesn't show up, something happens, whatever.
Right.
I would just take my crate of records and go to these parties. So the 90s were pretty much the whole DJ thing and the party thing was like my life. Like I would show up to ditch parties, I would show up to night parties, whatever,
Right.
Day parties, whatever you wanted to call them at that time. And I would show up on my crate of records. And like you said, a lot of times I didn't get to play.
Right.
And a few times I had friends like Mark Anthony, DJ Besso back then, your brother and stuff like that. I would be sitting there the whole night, and at the end of the night, they would be like, "Hey, you want to jump on, throw a couple records on or like that?" Because back then that was the only way you were ever going to get on a flyer if you weren't already known, was someone, the promoter, to hear you, or whoever's having the party to hear you and say, "Man, I like what this guy did. And, I need to get him on."
Right. Right.
So big ups to your brother and Mark for being kind back then, because like I said, I was just starting to build my name in the underground scene.
Thinking back, and what kind of struggles did you face as a DJ, dude? Trying to, not only
that was one of them.
That was one of them. Yeah, that was a big one.
You call it paying dues.
Yeah.
Which today a lot of that doesn't happen. With technology and stuff like that, and people's impatience stuff, they don't pay dues. Back then, you paid a lot of dues, and especially the people that were already had a name in playing, if they paid, the same dues, they were going to make sure you went through the same thing.
Right.
There was no handouts back then. You had to earn it, and I would say that was one of the biggest struggles, was just getting put on. Getting your name on that flyer by earning it, not just put it on there. Also, there was some incidents that happened throughout, various times in the 90s where my records were stolen twice. And that was a big hit, because for one, I didn't have a lot of money back then. So whatever records I had, I spent every penny on them. For them to get stolen, how do I DJ the next gig? Because usually I took out my best records. Right. I had, a started with crates, and then later on, when I got a little bit more professional, you know, I had DJ bags and I had flight cases, my records, and I would always bring two. One would be all imports, and one would be all in the bag would be all domestics.
So, getting your record stolen, that would probably, it's safe to say that that was probably one of your worst moments as a DJ.
I would say so, because
Right.
how was I going to play the next party?
Right.
You know, and at that point, I had to borrow records from other DJs and stuff just to keep going, and start selling off other records that I had just to buy new ones, just to keep going until I was able to recoup it. And I did recoup a lot of my records through Mark Anthony when he quit DJing and went into turntablism, and your brother and you as well, and Lenny V. Shout out to Lenny V. I was able to recoup a lot of the music back to keep going without having to borrow other people's records.
That's fucking.
Because at that time, I also didn't have turntables in the 90s. Somewhere in between the late 80s and the 90s, I had to sell my equipment to pay rent and stuff like that. You know, I was living on my own.
Right.
So I had to borrow people's equipment and make my mixtapes at their houses and stuff like that. So back then, one of the struggles was I would go to the record store, I would listen to a record, and I had to memorize that record because I couldn't go home and mix it and try to practice it for set. So everything I did was live. I'd buy those records at the record store, try to remember it, and then when I played it live, that's how I built my sets back then, doing it all live.
Oh shit, dude.
Yeah,
man.
So I mean, there's many struggles in DJing. That was, you know, earlier the struggles were where to get the money, you know, to go record shop, because, you know, we had the Rhodium, we had Casa Losa in Wilmington, we had Magic Disc in Carson.
We have a lot, It was a lot.
Dance Music Forever in San Pedro. So all these record stores, and yet no money. So I had to skip some meals, maybe not buy this, that, you know, not take the bus, just walk it somewhere and use that money to buy records. So I would say that that's definitely a part of the struggle.
And on the flip side to the struggles, what would you say was your greatest moment or most memorable moment that as a DJ when you look back?
Well, first of all, owning my first 1200 was probably one of the greatest moments ever.
That's dope.
And I only had one. I only had one Technics 1200, and then I had like another off-brand turntable. I don't even remember what it was. But I would say that's probably the greatest achievement of a lot of DJs. Open up that fresh box, that brand new car smell.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had many great moments. I mean, if we, you know, when we jump into what's happening now and stuff like that, or in the last couple of years, those are definitely probably the biggest highlights. But from opening my first 1200 up until DJing with some of the biggest people that have ever been in the scene, you know, I've had a lot of memorable moments.
Yeah, let's touch on that, dude, because around, was it 1996 to 98, around there, you would go or work. Did you work at DMC, or did you go there to buy a lot of records? I think we were all part of a group where that was a time where we would even bump into each other at the DMC or Street Sounds, or Prime Cuts was another big one in Hollywood. So touch on that for a little bit.
You had Doc Martin Store Wax, you had Beat Non-Stop, and the thing is, I would go buy records from people like Raul and Frank, and they go to DMC, and Ron Decor was over there, and then, you know, Prime Cuts Doc. I mean, I had a friend worked at Prime Cuts. I think his name was Angel.
Right.
And we had friends at every single record store, so we'd be going there every single weekend to buy records, pick up flyers, hand out flyers if you're a promoter or whatever. So I think that I finally found an opening through the door when Ron Decor left DMC Records. I got hired, and then somewhere during that time, when Raul and Frank and everybody left Street Sounds, the original Street Sounds, I got hired still upstairs at the OG Street Sounds, not the one that moved down. And shout out to Bob. And so that was a big moment working. You know, I guess that's another achievement in itself, because working at two of the most legendary record stores on Melrose Avenue and having access to music first before the DJs, it meant a lot. You know, it meant a lot because I was able to break a lot of stuff, and I also got a lot of gigs. And stuff that I would have never got if I wasn't working on Melrose Avenue at those record stores.
And also access to all the all the new stuff that would be coming in. That's a
Well, the
huge
promo
plus.
copies, especially.
Oh my God.
We had a lot of independent artists come in with promo copies and be like, dude, here, slide me a couple records. Hey, play this, play this.
Right,
and
right.
I mean, I can't even remember half of the stuff that I was given, but I mean, there was a lot of stuff that just later on blew up, like India, River Ocean. I got a promo copy, and that was a huge record later, you know?
Right.
But I had it way before a lot of people did. I'm sure a lot of other DJs that worked at record stores or record pools had it too, but I remember breaking it, you know?
Dude, so you've collected so many freaking records, dude. When you really think about when you think about what a DJ is today, you almost attach a particular genre to that DJ. Like Raul, drum and bass, dubstep. What would you say is your genre? Or it almost seems like you've adapted to so many different genres.
Well, I mean, back in the 80s, there was only so many genres that DJs were playing, Right. I mean, the stuff that people were dancing to and stuff like that. In the underground scene, you were either labeled in the very beginning a techno DJ. Then is 92, 93, 94 when house was coming in, pretty fierce, and techno was kind of taking a back seat. You were a house DJ. Right. And then, and then you started getting into to the drum and bass and the ragga, because a lot of the early suburban bass and all that was techno era, but it was drum and bass, I mean, I'm no expert in drum and bass, but, being at the record store, there was a lot of stuff broken down. Like, I never even knew of Goa trance and psychedelic trance and Euro house and all this stuff. Like, I learned a lot working in the record store, not just with house. It was a lot of hip hop too. And just was happening at the same time. Like, when we were selling records to all the DJs and stuff like that, there was a whole other movement of hip hop DJs coming in and buying up a lot of stuff too, because the 90s was the golden era, It
was. So fuck yeah, it was.
But then, techno and house was main room. Hip hop, if it had a space at a party, was in a small little section, and that quickly changed in the 2000s. It was reversed. House was pretty much non-existent. But
so let's visit that. Wasn't it around 1999 or 2000, somewhere around there, where you kind of took another break? You kind of stepped back from DJing for a bit.
Well, I think right before that happened, I think a lot of things ran its course. Okay. Like, not only was I playing a lot of underground parties, whether it be a backyard party to a warehouse. Right. I also started a crew called Idea Events with a couple of good friends of mine. Right. And that was the first time I'd been really a part of a crew, because I had never been a part of a crew before, and I've always wanted to be a part of a DJ crew, but these were just like a promotion crew. Then I clicked up with my compadre Mike Diaz Farrow, and we started throwing parties in the South Bay, and we kind of like exhausted a lot of that, like every venue in the South Bay. And
this was, what year was this?
This was, I want to say 92, 93, 94, 96, 97. Okay, 97, we had exhausted a lot of that. And then plus we were going to Mexico. We were doing all the spring breaks and Rosarito and all that kind of stuff like that. So I felt at that time, okay, what's going to happen next? Well, before I found out what was going to happen next, I had to stop around 97, 98 to 99. I kind of laid off big time. I still DJ'd, but I quit the promotion stuff. So I kind of slowed down with DJing because I had just started into my new career. It's actually where I'm still at now. And I had to make a decision. I wasn't getting rich off of DJing. Just being known and doing all this stuff, that doesn't pay the bills. Right. The money's got to be there. So I had to make a decision and said, okay, what am I going to do the rest of my life? Am I just going to party it away like I've been throughout the 90s? Or am I, going to really think about the future? So I started doing casually at my job. And I would say from 97 to 2000, I really laid off of DJing big time.
Just focusing on your career.
Focus on my career. In 2000 was a whole new change of things happening. So with my career and with DJing.
So what happened after 2000? Did you get back? Did you slowly get back into DJing, or was it mostly with your compadre, with Mike? Because I know he
started. thank God that he wanted to get back into doing stuff too. Because I mean, he was dabbling here and there, but he wasn't heavily into it like he was in the early '90s.
Right.
Because he's also down at the job that I work at too. So he had to concentrate on his future as well.
Right.
So, a lot of promoters that I worked with in the '90s weren't there anymore, or they moved on to either bigger things and they don't know you no more. Because once you're in, once you're hot and then you're not, whatever.
Right.
So they were doing other things, or they were on to bigger pastures.
Right.
And so in 2000, I slowly built up, and my compadre started wanting to do clubs, which was a little foreign for me because any club I ever did in the 90s, I went in there, did a set, and that was it. I did my half hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour, whatever the case may be.
Then you bounce.
Play the hits out.
Right.
In a club, since it was just me and him just getting it going, I kind of had to build the whole night and learn how to be that kind of DJ. I wasn't that. I was that. Go in there, do that 1 hour power set, and out. I had to learn how to be a DJ from the opening to the end until other DJs came on board and we started booking DJs, especially hip hop DJs, because I was still playing house.
Right.
But house, I wasn't getting booked at as a house DJ anymore. So.
So you had to adapt.
I had to adapt, and hip hop took a strong presence. 2000 era of hip hop took a strong presence.
And that's based on the collaboration you had with Mike and was it All Star Events concerts?
No. I always say we were All Star from the get go without even the name.
Okay.
It was always in the making.
Okay.
No. Back then he just went on as Pharaoh. I went on as Ernie G or whatever. Right. He was mostly the one to always do all the promoting, putting the stuff together. He ran the door, the promoting, all that. I ran the DJ booth. That was always my job, to run the DJ booth, to make sure the DJs got on and off on time, make sure lighting is working, sound, and all that. And that's always been my thing. I'm a geek with that stuff. Right.
That's dope, dude. So you guys played together. You did a lot of those events. So those events slowly started to grow. Whereas just one day, I remember I was looking at social media, and I see that you're promoting with these big name artists. So, was that a collaboration between you and him or other people, where you started to bring some of these bigger artists?
Well, it was with him, but like I said, that didn't happen overnight. When the club
took years.
Started,
it took what, 20 years?
It took from at least from the seeds started getting planted in 2000 for where we're at now. But back then, remember, all the Nellies, all the Corrupts, all that stuff, all that 2000, the Dr. Dre, everything was really big in the clubs, and I had to learn how to slow my roll and spin that kind of hip hop, because I was 130 beats per minute, and I had to learn 60, 70, 90 beats per minute mixing, and it wasn't really my thing. So that's when we started bringing other DJs in to spin hip hop and stuff, and I would still do a flashback set. But it was always a small portion of it because that everyone wanted something different then. And it wasn't until K-Day came back on the air that they brought back all the old jams, and it put me back in business, because I was like, dude, I'm gonna end DJing now. It's like, I'm not gonna get booked playing what I known to spin. So when K-Day came back, I dusted off all the Debbie Debs and all that kind of stuff like that, and I kind of intertwined it with the newer stuff at that time to make it work. And that lasted about 2005.
Right, and that's where you started to begin to more and reinvent yourself as an artist.
Well, yeah. I mean, it actually started, having to reinvent myself after the '80s and the '90s and into the 2000s. So it's been multiple times that this has had to happen. So in 2005. The club thing is kind of slowing down for us. Right. And we start dabbling in other genres. So I wasn't really with it right away. My compadre started doing oldie shows and stuff like that. And I actually turned down the first oldie show. I didn't want to do it. And then I started, I think it was in 2006 or something, I first got introduced to Serato. And that led to having all kinds of music at my fingertips, but it also opened up my mind that, like, you know what? I could play this stuff.
And,
you know, I got to do it my way, but I can play it.
And I have to say that you were one of the first DJs that I remember that really adopted Serato from the get-go.
Well,
not
it
many.
that you knew, but I mean, there was a whole slew of.
There was a slew, but there
yeah.
was still like a good amount of DJs that were kind of fighting the new technology that was on the rise. Whereas with you, you adopted it and you got to see the change that was coming. Whereas others kind of fought it for a little bit.
Well, I mean, your brother's actually was the first I ever saw digital DJing. He had the Stanton. I forgot what it was, Final Scratch.
Right,
Final Scratch. And I thought when I first saw that little UFO hub that he had, I go, "What the hell is that?" I just didn't get it, and I was like, "Nah." And yeah, and it was like, "Not for me." I don't even own MP3s, you know, or CDs. I only had records.
Right.
So when Serato came out, yeah, I was all about it, but at the same time, I didn't use it right away because for one, I didn't have a lot of MP3s. I was just starting to go through my records, find the MP3s, and starting to build my collection before I actually took Serato out. I wanted to have everything that I spin on MP3. Well, that was a bigger task than I thought.
Right.
You know, but it was heaven sent because it actually helped me to keep on staying in the game as far as doing other kind of genres of music that I never thought that I would do.
Right. So today, I want to get your opinion on this. Today, if you really think back to 15, 20 years ago, DJing has fucking changed in so many ways, you know, where technology has kind of invaded the space where people now, you really don't need records at all. You know, DJing you can have DJs pre-recording, you know, their sets at events, they play them later. You know, what are your thoughts, dude, on this? You know, do you think that the new tech is making it easier in some ways for DJs, or maybe it makes DJs lazy, or has it helped them to be more creative?
It can make a DJ lazy. And for me, the laziness is I used to know like all the album covers. I used to know the credits, who made this, who that. And with MP3s, I blank out. Like sometimes I can't even remember the damn name of the song. It's like there's so much music in the laptop. It's made a lot of people DJs. It's made people, everybody and their mother a DJ. Headphones and a laptop, you're a DJ without having to pay all the dues, the grind that people like myself and others did. So it's got its good and its bad.
Right.
But it's made people who are good even better, you know, because they have access to so many different tools. Like a DJ M once said, it gave him an extra hand that he didn't have by using Serato that you couldn't just do with two turntables, you know?
Right. That's true, man. That's fucking true. If you remember 20 years ago, how would you get booked as a DJ? Would you actually go out and just walk up to a promoter? Because I think you mentioned before to me that you were kind of a shy person growing up in the beginning. And as as you got into the craft of DJing and you really tried to get out there, and how did you get your own gigs? Did you just talk to promoters? Was it friends kind of hooked you up? Or
when you're a shy person, that's really difficult because going back to elementary school or junior high, I wouldn't stand up in front of the class and on the chalkboard and the teacher made you do that stuff. I was always embarrassed, or I couldn't speak in front of the class.
Right.
But you remember back then with DJing, it was all about the T-style coffins.
Right.
So when I was behind the coffin, I felt that was my wall from me to the crowd, and I wouldn't be embarrassed or I wouldn't have stage fright. I felt like that was like my little blankie, my little teddy bear, or whatever. And I was able to do that. I still to this day have a hard time being in front of a crowd without something in front of me. If I have a microphone in my hand, I'm making an announcement or something like that, I've most likely had a few drinks before that happens. But I've always felt like that's been my barrier. So with trying to get gigs and being shy, the only way that I could do it was to let them hear me. So that's why, like I said, I showed up to every party with my Creator Records and stuff like that to get the chance. And when they finally heard me and I'd show them what I can do, that was our social media back then. That was the only way you were going to get put on, is to be heard. It
Right.
wasn't to be seen. It wasn't about likes and all this stuff like that. You had to be liked right then and there, live. So I let my hands and the style of music that I was spinning, because the style of music that I was into was borderline of West Side, East Side scene, because there was two different scenes in LA, and I came with something a little bit more unique than some DJs were playing. A lot of DJs were playing the same stuff over and over, just like the radio plays the same stuff over and over. So I would have records that a lot of DJs didn't have, and that helped me to get gigs by being different.
That's dope.
And if I would have the gift of the gab back then, I probably would have had even double the gigs.
Even double the gigs.
I didn't know how to sell myself.
Right. Dude.
Without playing, without DJing.
Right. So that's how you would close deals. You would just play.
Exactly.
You get up, you would play a set, and that's how you would actually get your gigs. People would come up to you, say, "Hey, dude, that fucking set was fucking sick, man."
Or DJ, like, where'd you get that record?
Where'd you get that record? I have this event coming up. Can you play? So that was the way that you were successful back then. Today, you have the internet, which is something that we've never had as DJs, and
we're on it right now.
Yeah, right. We're on it right now. So, but back then there was no internet. It didn't exist as a DJ. Do you think it makes it easier to get booked?
It's easier to be known,
right?
But the thing is, there's so many people doing it and all doing the same thing. Unless you're a lot of these they're called free J's doing it for free, they don't get heard. I mean, I don't see how. There's a million dudes playing the same way, scratching the same way, mixing the same way, same songs. How do you get noticed?
That was my next question, because it seems like today, like you said, everyone is a DJ or trying to be a DJ
or a rapper or whatever.
Right. So do you think it's harder to be successful in today's environment? Because one thing has changed, technology. If you're able to produce a nice track, you're able to become a huge DJ, bigger than 20, 30 years ago. But there's so many out there. Do you think it's harder or easier?
Well, it's easier for them right now, especially if they have a lot of followers, a lot of likes and stuff like that, or even the DJs that can get a group of people into a club and book tables and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Those people have the advantage of the internet, social media. But the thing is, they don't have longevity. Now, everyone that's still here from back in the days, the people that paid their dues earned their respect and earned their spot on those flyers, to now earning their spot on whatever platform they have, their concerts, even wedding DJ, whatever, any kind of DJ that paid their dues, they built that longevity. I think there's a lot of people that are hot right now, and then they're just going to drop off. They don't have that longevity. Social media, to me, the DJs that grew up in the social media era, they're not going to have that longevity. There is some that have a lot of followers and they're pretty dope and they probably will make it, but there's a lot that are not. You have to have the respect of, the reason why I got to play a lot of events, even if I wasn't on the flyer, is because I had the respect of a lot of the big name DJs at the time. They knew that was the real deal.
Right.
And it wasn't about likes and this and that, and it was about being the real deal. You were really true to your craft. Right,
and they would hear you. And this guy's fucking good. And as a DJ, you can tell when someone's, whether it's Serato, whether it's records, you can tell if someone is playing or if they have some sort of pre-recorded set. Everyone knows in a sense.
Well, the thing is about digital DJing is everyone has access to everything now. Back then,
it's easier.
People knew when you had a certain record, like, damn, Okay, well, back in the days, they knew if you were the real deal.
Yes.
By some of the music you were playing, your mixing style and stuff like that. Nowadays with Serato, and everybody can download anything, any kind of digital DJing that is. You can download anything at your fingertips. What sets you apart from everybody else? One of the first times that I was using Serato, someone came up to me, and they were actually cousins to a really big name DJ. I'm not going to mention his name, but he goes, when did you start DJing? And I told him when. He goes, I could tell you're old school by what you're playing, because even in the digital era, you had to have been there a lot of times to know certain music, or how to mix it a certain way.
That's true. That's very true.
Because anybody else could be like, oh, he probably started last week DJing.
Right.
But someone who really knew their music I just didn't start last week.
Right, because you would know when you would know the breaks in every song and what goes well, and yeah, it's very true. That's a very good point. Whereas if someone starts today, they weren't there during that time where that song was huge and it was the way it was played by so many DJs. So that's a good point, dude. I never really thought about it that way.
I mean, the one thing about vinyl I can say is I can look at a record and remember where I played it at, where I bought it at.
Yeah. With
digital DJing, you lose all that. Like I just I don't remember where I played that at or when I downloaded it. But the thing is, when I spin a certain song, if it's on Serato, but I have the original record, the way I spin it with feeling. Like I was there. I mean, I was there when the record came out. And I ran to the record store, whatever money I had, and I bought that record. Yeah. And I think the way you project it, the way you play it,
right?
It's kind of like a cook. The way they season their food, you could taste it. There's a love for it. I'm not just playing that song,
Right.
And I can't speak on every single song that I play because there's some stuff that I don't even care to play for certain things that I may do a private event. But when it comes down to old school and classic house and old school funk and hip hop and all that kind of stuff like that, there's a certain way it's played and a certain feeling I have when I play it. And I think sometimes that comes across to the audience.
Let's see. Dude, what do you think? Yeah, today you have so many DJs that are trying to get exposure, trying to make a name for themselves. What do you think it takes to actually set yourself apart, to actually get that exposure these days?
I wish I could answer, man. I don't know about these young bucks. I have this thing. I stay in my lane. I don't call myself, just because I might play some newer music at a certain type of a private event or whatever. I don't consider myself, that type of DJ, whatever. I'm just an old school DJ, dude. I try to stay in my lane and my niche of music that I've always played. I've always been consistent with spinning old school. That's something I've always done. Yeah. I've even had DJs later on in life come and borrow my old school records because they weren't around at that time when those records came out. And it's something that I've always done. And for a short time, I was kind of lost because I didn't know where I fit in anymore because old school wasn't being played anymore. It was all about, the 2000s and stuff like that. I stay away from the market nowadays with all the new hip hop and all that stuff. I don't go into that lane. I may play it if a client requests it, but I stay away from that lane because you know what? It's not my forte. I don't feel it, so I don't feel that I'm going to be great at it.
Right.
I like to feel confident when I'm spinning and know that I'm delivering it the way it should be delivered. So I just stay in my lane, man. These new guys, I don't know, man. It's rough out there because there's just too many of them doing the same thing.
It is, dude. You could say that again. Fuck. But if you knew somebody right now, someone came up to you and said, "Dude, Ernie, I want to be a DJ, man. You fucking play so well. You kill it every time I see you. What kind of advice can you give me? I want to be a DJ." What would you tell somebody?
Well, first of all, I mean, you got so much new technology out, controllers and all that stuff. I mean, of course, my old school advice was get a pair of turntables, get some records, practice it, learn your music. You got to learn your music. And don't go out and play for anybody until you're ready.
Do you think it's important to start with turntables first or with digital?
Well, there's a lot of things you can learn off of DJing with turntables, and with digital DJing, you look at a Serato record, you can't tell where the breaks are in the music and stuff like that. Where a traditional vinyl, you could tell where the breaks at. That was back then. Those were your cue markers where to mix in and out of a song. Not always the case on every record, but a lot of times it was. Right. So. There's phenomenal DJs now that never touched a turntable in their life, dude. They started with digital, and they're phenomenal. There's, world champions. Yeah. But, my advice is if this is something you really want to do, pay your own dues. get the equipment that you're going to be comfortable with. It doesn't have to be the best, because we didn't start out with the best.
Right. Didn't.
What you're going to be comfortable with, and learn your stuff before you go out there and say you're a DJ. Before you put that DJ in front of your name, you got to earn it. And that's the one thing, everyone's a DJ now. I earned the word, the letters DJ in front of my name.
Yeah.
Whether there's people 10 times better than me, doesn't matter. They take that DJ for granted.
Right. That's so true, man. That's fucking so true. I've known you for a long time, and you've always seemed to be a pretty positive person, dude.
Oh man, you don't hear me behind closed doors.
Right. No. What motivates you to be so positive? Because you have your moments. You have your moments when you lose your fucking mind. I've seen it. That's usually, but that's usually when I move something in your apartment. Then you're like, what the fuck?
But you know what? That's passion, though, man.
That's passion, exactly. So
about something, that's passion.
Exactly. So what motivates you, dude? How do you remain so positive, dude? Because I think we all have our moments of negativity, but you seem to be a pretty positive dude.
Maybe in front of people I may seem that way, but behind closed doors, I mean,
you're a wreck. You fall apart.
But I never thought it was going to go this far. I never really planned that far ahead with it. It was something that I did back in the days that kept me off the streets, out of trouble, and I fell in love with it, and I've never stopped. Even when I had to take breaks, I always had some form of DJ in my life, whether it was still listening to records, buying some records, when here and there when I had equipment, something always kept me there. And I remember when the best things happened in my life, like getting full time in my career in 2000, I didn't have turntables for a long time, for many years. And I went on and bought all brand new equipment because I could afford it at that time. And that's another thing that today a lot of people just go get the equipment because they can. I've always respected. I mean, my turntables are mint condition. Yeah. I have multiple sets of turntables that are like mint condition. I keep them like babies. I remember time not having it. I remember the struggle to have it. All that plays a factor in your passion to be a DJ and to keep you going, because there's so many times that I was down and out, records got stolen, this, that, people wouldn't give me a shot, blah, 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 this and that, fallout with promoters.
Right.
Me and my compadre had we went to a certain level, and then we had a fallout, and then we started back up again, and now we're here. But if you don't have a passion for it, you're not going to make it through. You have to be a fan of the music and a love for the art of what you do, or you'll break when something devastating happens.
That was fucking amazing what you just said. That was really deep. I think a lot of listeners.
I think that's the beer talking.
Maybe it's the beer talking, but I think a lot of people are going to take away a lot from what you just said.
But I don't. It's not just There's a lot of people that were lucky enough to be in crews from the early days, Unique Technique, Beat Junkies, and all that stuff. They kind of helped each other. If someone was down,
they would help each other rise up. Yeah.
Someone could have learned this mix or scratch. That other guy would help. That was a bad thing about being shy. I was always a loner.
But at the same time, we also grew up in the streets of Wilmington and Carson and Hawthorne, where the whole thing was to talk shit and bag and your mom this. I think you and I still talk about each other's mom every fucking day. So
I love your mom.
Yeah, there we go. See, there was this environment that we would all just, it was just bagging contests all day. And
you either had to fight good, bag good, or have some kind of talent.
Right. And
I couldn't fight good. I could bag.
Yeah, exactly.
And I could DJ.
Right.
But that was about it.
So that was the environment we came from. So it was, a lot of us didn't have our own crews, or we didn't lift each other up because we kind of were all alone, or maybe we had a crews of 2 people in it. So,
well, I mean, I think that you touched on this in another conversation before, that you had a circle of friends that were all into the same thing. I was always trying to find that person that was into the same thing that I was.
Right.
I did have that person, but we never formed anything like in that structure to help each other, lift each other up and do that stuff. I think we were kind of still on our own path. It wasn't until I had a promotion team, later Idea Events, and then when I met, Mike, that we kind of had something, but, still I was the only DJ. So I had to figure it all out by myself, but I think Mike, in that respect too, had to figure out his own promotion, and so we kind of learned how to work with each other, because he was trying to master his thing, and I was trying to master mine.
Right.
And luckily, we became family, and where we're at now with you brought up All-Star events, formerly All-Star Concerts, now we're All-Star Events group. It's a family, and since the early 90s, it's been that way. Everyone in the group is family, and we kind of brought each other up, and sometimes we've even teared each other down, dude. We upset at each other, not saying or doing the right things for each other.
Right.
But after the club thing ended, and we had to figure out what we were going to do. If you didn't have that unity to go to the next step, well, hey, I want to do this. Let me try this. Do you want to do it with me? You want to come along and spin and all that stuff like that? And that led on to doing a lot of small shows at Alpine Village and stuff, to where we're at now. So like I said, it just didn't start, right away. But if you don't have that team and that structure, it's kind of hard to keep on going, man. You're bound to fall off if you're by yourself, and that was something that I was surprised that I just didn't fall off. The only thing I can say is passion kept me going.
That's dope, dude. Now, today, you guys' All-Star Events, you guys are doing pretty big shows today. Are you now focused more on just working with Mike to do some of these big shows that you guys have been doing in the last few years?
Well, I've always been his day one since his very first party in Wilmington in a backyard. I was his first DJ ever, and I told him I'm going to die being his last DJ ever. I said, you ain't getting rid of me. So I stuck with one person, which was another thing you already know in this business, loyalty. Man, as soon as someone's flashing more cash or this or a better offer, that loyalty goes out the window. I stayed with one promoter. I've worked with many promoters, but I've stayed with one promoter since day one. No money, no this, no that, fallouts, ruined events, big events.
Right.
We're still there. We're still doing what we do because, like I said, we both have passion for our individual arts that we have. So,
that's dope.
Go. What was your question again? I lost track.
No. I just wanted to know what you guys, is that your main focus right now? Sticking with continuing to be involved with the big concert events.
It's always growing, and whether we sometimes take a step back and do a smaller show,
right?
Because not all shows have to be a big show. Certain artists, you have to have that platform, and then there's other artists where you can do small, intimate shows, which I've always loved. I like those really small, intimate shows where I can be really close to the crowd. Because sometimes when you're on a festival stage or a concert stage, you're a little bit away from the people, and I don't ever like for me to feel disconnected.
Right.
I vibe off of everybody. If I don't see them bobbing their heads or something like that, my whole thing just goes down. It's like I feed off of that. My energy goes down. So, we got a show coming up, which goes back to me trying new things after I got Serato, was learning how to play oldie shows, learning how to play Spanish shows, because even though I'm Hispanic, I'm not the most Mexican person on the planet.
This is true.
I'm pretty pocho. So I kind of had to learn how to do that, but just the passion of wanting to DJ and accepting the challenge is what keeps me going. So, we're doing a show at the Forum, which another big highlight in my DJ career is I've got to play.
Well, you said that because the thing froze on me. So I want to start with, you mentioned something about the Forum. What are some of the new projects that you have coming out?
We're doing Ramon Ayala at the Forum.
Okay.
And so that's my first time there. I'm really excited. Throughout different type of shows, whether they were freestyle shows or hip hop shows or whatever.
Right.
I've got with this whole all-star concert thing that we got going. I've got to play the Greek, the Microsoft Center, Long Beach Performing Arts Theater.
Right.
I've got to play these historic venues, and that is really important to me. I don't care,
That's
even
awesome.
though I'm not the most Hispanic on the planet. I don't care. It's a Spanish show. I'm happy I'm playing at the Forum. That's a big deal to me.
That's awesome, dude. That's a huge freaking accomplishment right there, man. When is that show?
That is going to be next Saturday. That is November 2nd.
November 2nd. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's going to bring a lot of people. Like
Yeah,
over 10,000 people easily.
I mean, we've had some big shows, 12, 15,000 people, and considering we're only doing a lot of classic music, old school and stuff like that, oldies, to get that amount of people, that's big, because other people are doing EDC and festivals like that. Of course, they're drawing big numbers, but that's a different kind of genre, a newer style of music.
Right.
When you're going back to classic stuff and you could still pull that amount of people, that's a big deal.
It's impressive. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big deal. But in between a lot of the concerts, I do a lot of private events, corporate stuff and stuff like that I don't really announce, because that's the private side of my DJing. But I really like doing a lot of stuff, because a lot of it sometimes is a challenge too. I got to jump from multiple genres of music, which thanks to Serato, I was able to do that. Before, if I didn't have the record, I didn't have the record. And
how do you get those gigs? Some of these corporate gigs, is it something that people reach out to you, or you reach out to them?
Well, believe it or not, some people think like, oh man, since you're playing this concert, you must get all these gigs off of it. To tell you the truth, not really, because a lot of people don't consider me for a smaller gig, because they see me on that platform and they think that that's all I do.
Right.
A lot of my private stuff is word of mouth, and
Really?
I've been in the game so long, and I've DJed for so long. I mean, I'll bump into someone I haven't seen in 10 years, and the first thing they say is, DJ Ernie G, what's up? Right. It's become my persona, so to speak. I mean, I've been a DJ since I consider myself a DJ since the first time I touched my grandma's home console, because the passion, the love started right there, and that was in 1983. So, whether it started professionally later is a different thing, but I think that I've met so many people, and they've known me from that I'll get a phone call, hey, we got this, and then I'll do something, and I don't advertise. I've never advertised in all my time years of DJing. So they hear me, somebody will get my business card and call me up, and I'll do the next one and the next one and the next one.
Wow. Yeah, dude.
That's my only social media I like to do. You hear me?
Yeah, that's my next question. Do you use social media, Instagram,
I don't
Twitter?
use it like I should. I don't really care about the followers and all that stuff. I just post stuff. And
is that something you want to focus on? To try to get more gigs or get more exposure?
No, not really, because I don't want gigs based off of a social media status or whatever.
Right.
Whether I had a little bit or a lot of people, that's not the way I want to do it.
Okay.
I want people to book me because they want what I do.
Right.
They want the experience that I have. Or the knowledge, whatever. That's the kind of client I want. Is someone who's looking for me, not just a DJ. I don't want that kind of client.
Right. Dude, you mentioned during the beginning of this podcast, you mentioned a few people that you looked up to or inspired. But what was the biggest inspiration when it comes to DJing? I don't think I asked you that question. Another DJ that you really looked up to or you were inspired by?
Of course, the Givens, Jam Master Jay, the Given.
Right.
And then the local hometown heroes, the people closest to me, Tony A, Joe Cooley and stuff like that, because they weren't, Tony A was on the east side of Wilmington, I was on the west side of Wilmington. Right. And so that to me was like reachable, even though I was always shy and didn't want to go talk to them and stuff like that. And I would bump into them in places like El Dorado car wash or whatever. Right. I was always reserved, but those people were major influence. And there was many others in the 80s. And then in the 90s would be, a lot of the big rave DJs and stuff like that. Your brother being one of them.
Right.
Even
Right.
though I'm older than your brother, and I've probably been DJing longer than your brother, but still, the fact is that he tapped in that genre before I did, and he took it to a bigger platform before I did. I looked up to him, and also I would have to say in the 2000 era would have to be DJ AM,
which I wanted to mention because I see DJ AM in the background.
Yeah, and that was a big thing for me because that's when the whole mashup era, even though technically that's not a new thing, because back in the 80s, technically you were mashing up everything because whatever records you had, whether it was funk, hip hop, new wave or whatever, you were mixing it all, freestyle, high energy disco, you kept it going to get the party going with different genres of music, but he took it to a whole other level. It was like that on steroids. And that moment, what he was doing, and then with Serato and all that, I really looked up to that, and I had to go see it for myself. When I got to go see DJ AM live, I said, I got to see what this dude's all about. Is he just a celebrity DJ like a lot of people say?
He was fucking sick. That guy was sick. He's
mixing and stuff and licking his fingers and touching the records. I'm like, only old school DJs lick their fingers and stuff like that. They're just certain little traits that he had, and I could tell he's the real deal.
Right.
Even if I didn't know everything about him. And what's funny is when I was working at DMC and Street Sounds, like I said, there was a whole other culture going on, the 90s hip-hop era, where AM and Homicide and all these guys were beat nonstop. They were DJing and stuff, and they were there a lot when I was buying records. But like I said, I love 90s hip-hop, and I listened to it, but I wasn't buying it. I wasn't going to Fat Beats and doing all that stuff. I was buying house and techno and house and all that. But I still listened to all that music because one of the guys in Idea Events was all about 90s hip-hop. Shout out to my boy MC Karopi. And so it wasn't like it was not around me, but I wasn't spinning it. And I was collecting it here and there, but I focused more on the other genres of music that I was getting booked for.
That's dope, man. Yeah, he was an amazing fucking DJ, man. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, man.
Jazzy Jeff, of course, throughout.
Of course.
I mean, from the 90s, Jazzy Jeff. In my eye, Jazzy Jeff's the best DJ on the planet.
I would have to agree with you there. Yeah, absolutely. He's right there in the top, right there, dude. So what's next for you, bro? What do you see yourself doing? Continuing the path. What's your journey looking like now? As the years come.
Well, I'm working on a few things. I'm working on a new EPK electronic press kit. I'm going to be coming out with that. It's with social media links. I'm going to be releasing some cassettes I found in the garage of my old mixes from the 90s, my first 4-track and all that.
Oh shit! Okay,
Finally,
cool.
I'm going to get them converted.
I want to hear them.
I'm going to put them out this year.
Nice.
Future events with All-Star concerts, All-Star events groups, I'm sorry. There's rumors about me playing my very first organic food festival, but that promoter hasn't yet booked a solid date yet.
Wow.
But there's rumors.
Wow, that sounds like it's going to be a pretty big event.
Oh, I heard it's going to be huge.
Yeah, I heard it's going to be huge
Good food and good music?
Yeah. What else do you need?
We'll see when that promoter calls and locks down the date.
Yeah.
But,
hopefully soon.
Yeah, I just continue to do a lot of private events and stuff like that. I am getting older. Next year I'm going to be 50 years old. So sometimes it's kind of hard doing private events, with bringing equipment and stuff like that. I'm leaning toward more wanting to outsource a lot of stuff and it's already all set up and stuff. Like at the concerts, all I do is bring my turntables or my Rain 12 or whatever, and everything else is already there. The lights, sound, so it's great. It's not a lot of heavy work. It's just a lot of long hours. But with private events, and I got to bring my
own stuff.
That's a lot of work. I do have a faithful assistant. Shout out to AT Kicks. Helps me out with a lot from the concerts or private events. This guy is like, he's got my back.
You should get Paul to help you out.
Man, he's only there for the drinks. He's only there for the drink. But I think that as I get older, I don't want to quit DJing because I love it so much. So I would have to outsource a lot of the heavy work and the equipment. I just show up and do what I do, and have my assistant deal with the party planners or event coordinators or whatever, so I can keep on doing this. But if I have to physically do the work, I can't say that I can do that for the next 5 years.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Dude, so where can people find you online, dude? Social media, Facebook, Instagram,
My
Twitter?
Instagram is DJ Ernie G 83.
Cool.
My Facebook is Ernie G Gonzalez.
Dope.
And that's pretty much my two social media platforms. And then my EPK will be coming out, and it'll be linked to my DJErnieG.com.
Nice.
Which is under construction back again right now. So it's taking a hiatus.
Okay, cool, dude. Well, fuck, man. Dude, it was an amazing time talking to you, brother. You know, it
was great speaking to you.
Yeah,
if I left out anybody, we had to keep it short and sweet, but there's so much more that happened in between.
Trust me, people, you have no idea. You have no idea.
Especially in the 90s. The 90s was a big time for me. Yeah. You know, a lot of memorable events and a lot of things happened in the 90s.
Yes.
To lead here.
This is our third time doing this podcast, and the first one was a lot of good info. It was.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll do a
follow up. We'll do a follow up
or something like that. Maybe a written story or whatever. There's a whole lot to be told. I just gave the highlights.
Yeah, awesome, brother.
A lot of ups and downs, smiles and frowns.
There we go. All right, brother. Dude, again, thanks for being on the show. You've been a fucking inspiration to a lot of people out there and a lot of DJs trying to come up. You know, a lot of respect to you, brother.
A lot of respect. Likewise, bro. I've known you a very long time.
Yeah. All right,
Peace,
brother.
Tiny.